Okay. Laptop
Okay. Okay, just 1 minute. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye. Nashtaprayeshu Vadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकी नंदनाय च नंदगोपकुमाराय गोविंदाय नमो नमः। ओम अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनच्छलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरोः श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनासहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च हे कृष्णकरुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धु जगत्पते गोपेशा गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिय वंश कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे Hare Krishna. So, I'd like to welcome everyone. So, after quite some break, we are resuming our Bhagavad discussion. We are in Canto 4, and we just concluded discussing the Rudra Gita. Again, a quick recap in case you totally lost track of what we were discussing earlier. So, we were discussing about how we are talking about the descendants of Dhruva coming all the way, and we are talking about how there was a great king by the name of Prachina Barhi, the ancient Barhi, whose sons, the Prachetas, they were to assist in populating the universe. And these sons, they were on their way to perform austerities because they wanted to make sure that they are properly purified and qualified before they render their service. And to their great delight, Lord Shiva, seeing their sincerity and their cooperation, comes and very beautifully instructs them in the means of spiritual advancement and gives them a very special prayer, the Rudra Gita, in which Lord Shiva explains of how the Lord is to be meditated upon, his transcendental form, and also various beautiful teachings all around pure devotion. Ultimately, how bhakti is the greatest, how one should meditate on the transcendental forms of the Lord and aspire to serve him, and how the association of pure souls paves the way, and service to them paves the way for this kind of a attachment to the Lord and the attainment of pure devotion. So very nicely, Lord Shiva instructs, and we also discuss the Falashruti, of how this prayer is so wonderful. This prayer was originally taught to Lord Shiva by Lord Brahma. Hmm. So Lord Shiva is handing these prayers to the Prachetas, and he says that everything you need, including becoming a devotee, knowledge, uh, everything, freedom from bondage, all these things you will attain if you recite these prayers. So we're moving to chapter 25 because the story is continuing, but the setting is changing. So what happened was, and we are discussing today chapter 25. The chapter is entitled Descriptions of the Characteristics of Puranjan. And now you may be wondering what is this Puranjan. So we will come to that in a minute. But we are continuing essentially the same story, but it is a different section. There are many chapters dedicated to this particular story. And this set of chapters is known as the story of Puranjan. Now, who is this Puranjan? What are his stories we'll be discussing today? That itself is the chapter. Excuse me. That itself is the chapter that we are discussing. So what happens is like this. After blessing the Prachetas, Lord Shiva disappeared. And the Prachetas were very, very happy. And just as they were instructed, the Prachetas continued to perform their austerities and worship very intensely with all seriousness, including following the instructions that Lord Shiva had given them, especially the recitation of the Rudra Gita. Now something interesting happened. As the Prachetas were making spiritual advancement towards the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the scene shifts to the father's palace, King Prachina Barhi. Now this is a queer situation. The children are busy in spiritual advancement, and what was the father busy in? King Prachina Barhishat. He was busy in performing all kinds of fruitive activities to enjoy this material world. Of course, the good relative to the people in Kali Yuga, at least he was a little bit more intelligent, because at least he knew that the path for material prosperity goes through the performance of yajna, like what Krishna explains in the Gita in the chapter 3. Of course, it is never possible to find perfect happiness, but one can minimize the negative situations in this material world and at least try to have a best of the bad bargain by at least following the path of karma kanda. But the path of karma kanda doesn't deliver one from material existence. One still has to continue to suffer in the cycle of birth, old age, disease, and death. Punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam. So this King Prachina Barhi was so engrossed in yajna, one after another, one after another. So here there is a pursuit of spiritual advancement, and here the father is busy in materialistic activities. Even though generally we think, it is more common that the father will be spiritual and the children will be materialistic. Actually, in our society, we find usually it is the opposite. Where the children take to spiritual life and their fathers or mothers or their other relatives oppose. That is quite a common situation. Because they are themselves attached to materialistic enjoyment, and hence they are unable to appreciate the value of spiritual practices and austerity. They think that this is a waste, that a spiritualist is not enjoying the facilities of material nature. Oh, this is such a big loss. Anyway, so King Prachina Barhi was overtime busy. So Narad Muni realized, I have delivered the Prachetas have been delivered by Lord Shiva. And Narad Muni was thinking, this Prachin Barhi is, total mess. He's just totally oblivious of what is the real goal of life. And he's one of the descendants of Dhruva. I must help him. So this is the wonderful thing. If you are connected to great devotees, how other great souls also become merciful to somehow try to help us just because of that connection. So Narad Muni decided that I must go and help. So Narad Muni appears in front of King Prachina Barhi. And he asked him a very direct but a very pointed question. O King Prachina Barhi, please tell me, what is it that you are hoping to achieve by following this Karma Kanda? Because the two things that people in this world desire, what are the two things? Dukkha Hani, to get rid of miseries, and Sukha Avaptihi, the obtainment of happiness, cannot be obtained through performance of material fruitive activity. So that was like a big shock to King Prachina Barhi. So he's performing this Karma Kanda ritual so that he can be happy and get rid of miseries, when Narada Muni is coming and straight away telling him on the face, you want this, but the method you have adopted will never give you this. Of course, normally materialistic people are very convinced that through intense fruitive activities and achieving material resources and success, that is the royal road to happiness. But Narad Muni is telling nobody has ever become happy like this. And this is one of the most fundamental things for us sadhakas to understand, that as long as we are not convinced that the path of fruitive activity is not the path to auspiciousness, we cannot actually sincerely take shelter of the spiritual process. Now, sometimes what happens, some people take shelter of the spiritual process only because they are in a materially adverse situation. But once things get better, so-called better, means not as bad, because in the material world, it is not actually between good and bad as what people think. It is only between worst, worse, and bad. These are the three levels. Means most miserable, very miserable, and miserable. These are the three levels. And what is miserable is called happiness, because it is perceived relatively. And if a person very impartially and non-egoistically analyzes, he will realize that that is the situation. Anyway, I don't want to go into that topic. That's a very detailed topic of philosophical inquiry. But serious spiritual practitioners should have come to this conclusion. Prachina Barhi had not. And Narad Muni was quite concerned. So he asked him this pointed question, don't you know? You're doing this, but don't you know that your miseries cannot be taken away and actual happiness cannot be attained by the performance of fruitive activities? Now, normally when, one friend tells this to another, or, neighbors tell something like this to us, it makes no impact. But Narada Muni, such a great soul, when a great, very pure devotee speaks certain words, they have a very, very special potency. They are very penetrating. And that is why we want to hear from sadhus. The more pure they are, the more effective it is. Because the words of great souls are impregnated with the realization of the great souls, and that is why it hits. It makes a great impact. It is not just the information which brings about transformation. It is the association with the sadhu's bhakti, his faith, his conviction, which is carried through the medium of their vani and enters our heart through our ears. It what actually makes the transformation. So Prachina Barhi was, shaken up. And he actually took a humble position, because he knows if Narad Muni is saying, he's speaking from a place of realization. He's not just, talking philosophy. So King Prachina Barhi took a humble position. He told Narad Muni, oh Narad Muni, you see, my intelligence is entangled in all this karma. Actually, I do not know what is the ultimate goal of life. Somehow, I have grown up like this, that I am thinking that, this is the way to become happy, do yajnas and be happy in this life with lot of wealth and opulence and attain heaven at the end of this life. Huh? Krishna has already in the Bhagavad Gita uh, severely chastised people with this mentality. Bhogaishwarya Gatim Prati says these are people who are so attached to material enjoyment and to heaven thereafter that they are busy with religion only as a means to improve their enjoyment. Correct? And sadly, this is true. I mean, most practitioners of religion, why do you think they're excited about practicing their religion? You just ask anybody from any religion. Two answers you will get. So that God can solve my problems and give me what I want while I'm here. And after I die, I can go to that place, heaven, where I will have a good time. Of course, different religions have different concepts of heaven. Some people, are very so excited that they want to get there so quickly that they'll do all kinds of things. But if you analyze deep down, the motivation is totally sense enjoyment. There's nothing spiritual about it. The only saving grace is rather than stealing money, they are earning money. But after they get it, they are going to do the same thing, isn't it? Of course, Krishna says doing yajna and enjoying is better than enjoying without yajna, because enjoying without yajna is stealing, and stealing is sinful and you will suffer more. But even enjoying after earning is not going to solve the problem, because the miseries of material existence, birth, old age, disease, and death, do not disappear. No matter how high one goes in material life. A Brahma Bhonal Loka Punar Avartino Arjuna. Right from Brahmaloka to the lowest species, there is birth, old age, disease, or death. One has to come back. Mam upetyatu kaunteya punarjanma vidyate. Only if you attain me, my abode, then there is no rebirth. So Prachina Parishad says, Griheshu Kuta Dharmeshu Putra Dharadhanarthadi Na Param Vinde Mudho Brahmayam Samsara Vartmasu. Deep down he knew that he is on the wrong path, but he was so attached to material enjoyment. But he admits, he says that those whose intelligence is fixed in this kind of materialistic activities, household activities related to wife, house, occupation, wealth, etc., they continue to wander in material existence again and again, and they never achieve liberation. So I am such a person. Please tell me, what is it that I should do? Now, this is the real purpose of a sadhu. Prabhupada oftentimes would say a sadhu's job is not to flatter powerful and rich people to get donations and facilities. Prabhupada oftentimes says it is not the duty of the sadhu. The duty of the sadhu, the guru, is to be heavy. Guru means heavy. Heavy means what? Not bodily heavy. Heavy in the words. Heavy instructions. Heavy, full of knowledge. Straight. Prabhupada, Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Prabhupada would say, Guru means the words of the Guru must be like a sword. It should cut the attachments of the listeners. So Narad Muni wanted, even though he said Prachinavari, Narad Muni wanted him to really understand that the path he has chosen, what is the consequence of the path he has chosen. He's thinking this is going to lead him to happiness. So Narad Muni told him, look up there, up in the sky. And Narad Muni, by his mystic vision, allowed him to see into his future. And he said, see in the sky all those animals who you slaughtered in sacrifice without compassion. All of them are waiting for you there. Why are they waiting for you? Because what you have done to them, they want to pay back to you. You took their life, no? Now you owe your life to them. If not now, later. The debt must be settled. So they are waiting for you to take revenge by piercing your body with their sharp horns. So Prachina Bari, when he saw that, he was like, oh my God, I never realized what is it that I'm actually creating. See, this is the nature of material activity. Even though he was performing yajna, because in material activities there are always faults. And if there are faults, one has to pay for the faults. Of course, whatever is done correctly, we get the benefit, but whatever are faults, we still have to suffer. So Narad Muni was trying to make King Prachina Bari understand that the animals that he's slaughtering, now the Vedic system is like this. There are certain kinds of yajnas where animals are slaughtered, but in olden times, of course, in Kali Yuga, this is not allowed at all. But in olden times, the sages would be so powerful that when they would sacrifice the animal properly with the right mantras, the animal would immediately, on being slaughtered, get a human form of life. Would get evolved. So the sacrifice of the animal was actually for the benefit of the animal, not for the loss of the animal. Correct? So that rather than going through the 8.4 million species and come to human being, they would immediately jump to human form of life by the power of the mantras. So usually if it was done properly, it was not a fault. But did it always work? No. Correct? Doesn't always work. So many times, even today, even amongst material scientists or even spiritualists, so many attempts at so many things sometimes fail. Even now also, even when people try to send rockets and satellites into space, even now missions fail. So even in yadnik performances, sometimes there are mistakes. And Narad Muni is warning him that whenever you make mistakes, please realize the animal you have slaughtered, you killed him, but you didn't give him human birth. So what happens? You get the sin of the karma of slaughtering the animal. And you have to pay. And you have been continuously doing yajna. Now there are so many animals who are not sacrificed properly. All of them are waiting for you. So he was trying to tell him that, see, this is the danger of material activity. And we all can experience this in our lives also, isn't it? So many times in material life, because material life is so tricky. Padam padam yad vipadam. That even though we want everything to happen properly, sometimes our intention is also good, but still mistakes happen, isn't it? How many times we have done something to please somebody, but actually produce the opposite result? So material nature is like that. So he was showing, Narad Muni was showing Prachina Bari, see all these mistakes that you have done. You think you're only going to enjoy? You're going to get good results also, you're going to get bad results also. You're going to be poked by the horns of all these animals. So Prachina Bari immediately became very worried. I didn't quite realize I am actually subjecting myself to a dangerous situation. So when a living entity becomes submissive, realizing his precarious position, this is the beginning of spiritual inquiry. That when one realizes that one is in a precarious situation, then he surrenders to the spiritual master. Otherwise, there's no surrender. Otherwise, it's just a social acceptance of guru. Okay, I have to society. It is, some guru must be taken, so as to increase my prestige. So I can say I'm disciple of so and so. Prabhupada says that kind of guru taking is not going to help us. Tadvidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshinaha. One has to make humble, sincere inquiry and render service, and then we will be instructed. And that mood is not possible unless one is desperate to understand, and that desperation doesn't come unless one realizes the precarious means dangerous, the dangerous situation that one is in. Prabhupada would again and again and again and again warn his disciples, you don't understand how dangerous the situation is in the material world. Right? And Kali Yuga living entities are like donkeys or goats. Goats who are lined up to be slaughtered, they're busy eating grass, enjoying the grass, not realizing that, as they are moving ahead in the line, they are coming closer and closer to being slaughtered. So Prachina Bhari was enjoying the grass, not knowing that the animals are waiting. Very soon his turn is going to come. So now he becomes shaken up. Now he's in a mood to hear. So it's very important when the Guru instructs, the Guru has to make sure that the disciple is in a receptive frame of mind. And that's why even Krishna did not start instructing Arjuna, even though Arjuna was going on trying to show his wisdom by giving various arguments. Until the point he says, Karpanya doshopahat svabhava prachami tvam dharma sammuda cheta. I am bewildered, I don't know what is to be done, what is not to be done. Yat shreyasyan nishitam bruhitan me shishyasteham shadimam tvam prapannam. Please tell me what is best for me, I am surrendering to you. So similarly, Prachina Bharishat has submitted, I don't know what is good. Narad Muni, you tell me. People like us who are engrossed in material affairs, we don't know. Please tell me. So Narad Muni, after having shown him and, gotten him into the right state of mind, starts narrating a story to him. So Narad Muni tells him, now I'm going to tell you a very old story which is connected to a very powerful, successful king by the name Puranjana. Now, as soon as he speaks like this, immediately he gets the attention of King Prachina Bharishat. Oh, story. So whether it's a child or it is a king or it is an old man, everyone likes stories. Nobody likes to hear philosophy. A story means everybody becomes attentive. So Narad Muni wanted to make sure that the king attentively hears. And what can be more attractive to a king than the story of another successful king? So, wow, Puranjan, this successful king. Yes, I want to hear. Tell me about him. And he says, please hear as I now explain to you about this King Puranjan. And this is how the story of King Puranjan begins, and it goes on for the next few chapters. Now, before I go into the story proper, I just want to explain, because the debriefing of the story happens only after 5 chapters. So I have to give you a debrief earlier. Otherwise, you'll not realize what Narad Muni is trying to do. Now, Narad Muni knows that this Prachina Bhari must be instructed properly and he must be made to understand what is the situation. But because this Prachina Bhari is such a big, opulent king, Narad Muni feels that he is not yet at the position. Like, for example, Arjun really surrendered so much with his heart that the first instruction that first thing Krishna told him even before he gave instruction, he said, you are a fool. Correct? Pradnya Vadansa Bhasase Gatasu Nagatasu Nanu Sharchanti Pandita. Those who are learned don't lament. What is this? Even though you're speaking as if you are learned, actually you're talking the language of fools. So Arjun was ready for that kind of instruction from the Guru. You are fool, first dialogue, before giving anything. And actually that is needed, because first one has to empty one's glass before one can fill it with knowledge. The problem is, if we think I know, then our glass is already full. Then the Guru's knowledge has no place to gather. Prachina Parishad was not on that level like Arjun. Huh? So the Guru has to always see what is the level of the disciple. And accordingly he gives. He doesn't always give direct instructions to everybody or tell everybody on the face. See, sometimes we become upset when the Guru chastises us on the face. But we should understand that if the Guru is chastising us and telling us something on the face, that means he is thinking us worthy to receive that kind of a chastisement. So actually you should, of course, we should not be proud of being chastised, but we should at least think that yes, the Guru at least thinks of me as worthy to tell me straight on the face. So that much trust he has in me. So that should be seen in that way. But Prachina Bari was not at that level. So what Narad Muni was trying to do, how to instruct this person? I cannot tell him directly more. I have shown him this and scared him, but now I have to be a bit more subtle. So Narad Muni decides to tell a story which apparently is like a historical old episode, but actually it is an allegorical story. It is an allegorical story which is actually the story of King Prachina Parishad. But he doesn't want to take the name of Prachina Parishad. He wants to tell this is the story of one king called Puranjana. So what does allegory mean? Allegory means when you tell a story where the story has a hidden meaning. The story is an external story, but it has a meaning. It has an interpretation. So the story is told as a story of Puranjan, but actually the allegory is actually referring to the life of Puranjan. Of King Prachina Parishad. So Narad Muni, through telling the story of Puranjan, is actually instructing King Parishad about his own life. Now the Acharyas explain why this is significant and why this is important. So one, of course, we discussed that he may not have been ready to receive those instructions directly on his face. So this seemed like a more subtler way to put it. Second, of course, we also discussed that a story got the attention of King Prachina Barhi. And generally, those who are actually very successful, very powerful people in this world, they don't like to be told straight on the face that you have made a mistake or you are wrong. For such individuals, it is good to convey to them their improvement needs by pointing somewhere else rather than at themselves. And then through that example, they can self-reflect because they are materially intelligent. They can self-reflect and say, oh yeah, actually I'm also like this. But let me not tell everybody, but I understood I am like this. I'm also doing this. Don't tell anybody. But I realized I am also doing this. Correct? So that's why sometimes the sadhus, the gurus will tell stories and all of us will think, hey, actually I'm like this, but I have to behave very saintly. But actually I know I am also like this. So all these stories are there. So that is one thing. And especially these stories of the kings and powerful people are very, very attractive. And that is why, in fact, the scriptures say that Vyasadeva, he wrote so many scriptures, right? He wrote the Vedas, he compiled the Vedas, Puranas, Upanishads, wrote the Vedanta Sutras. After compiling everything, he wrote the Mahabharata. Mahabharata was compiled almost towards the end. And the scriptures explain why he wrote the Mahabharata. And it's explained in the Bhagavad also why he wrote the Mahabharata. So that the less intelligent people who are not attracted to philosophy, who are just attracted to high drama stories, plots, fighting, wealth, power, romance, they all get excited. Currently in India, there is a lot of hoo-ha on a movie. Everybody is discussing about one movie, of course, for different reasons. But people get very excited. Yes, they want some drama, they want some fighting. This. So to attract people with this kind of mentality would normally not open Bhagavad Gita and read, or normally not open Shastra and study. They get attracted to these kind of stories. That's why Mahabharata was written in such a way that through this story, somehow they will learn about dharma. And when the peak of that magnum opus, the Mahabharata comes, where the war is there and everything, and everybody is, wow, now the story has come to a peak. The war is just about to begin. The conch shell is blown. Everybody is attentive. The Bhagavad Gita will start. Because we have already got everybody's attention. Suddenly, Karpanya doshopahata svabhava prachamitam dharma sammuda cheta. Then Krishna will start instructing. So that is how the great souls impart divine wisdom to even those who are not normally inclined to hear. So Bhagavad Gita is like a medicine which is put with a chocolate coating of the Mahabharata. So people are interested in the chocolate. They think, oh, I'm taking a chocolate toffee. But inside the toffee is the medicine of the Bhagavad Gita. So the medicine will also act. So here, Narad Muni is using the mechanism of the story of Puranjana to attract him, but he is making sure that he will be able to grasp slowly but surely, I mean, may not be immediately, but slowly but surely able to grasp that this story actually refers to him. Actually, another way that the great souls help others to understand their situation, rather than directly telling them that you are like this, sometimes they will share certain things as if they are their own frailties or mistakes. Oh, yeah, I also have so many material desires. And I also cannot focus my mind on Krishna. Because nobody from the audience will admit that they cannot. But when they are here, the preacher is also saying that he also cannot. Yes. So then, then they feel, then, then for me to admit shouldn't be a big problem if he also is struggling from. Then they are able to relate and they are able to open up. So when the great souls sometimes show a vulnerability, Bhaktivinoda Thakur has written so many beautiful songs of Dainya. Dainya means showing extreme humility, that I am so sinful. For example, the beautiful song Gopinath. Gopinath Mama Nivedana Suno. Vishayi Durjana Sada Kamarata Kichu Nahi Mora Guna Gopinath. That I am so attached to sensual enjoyment. Vishayi Durjana Sada Kamarata. Always my mind is absorbed in lusty thoughts. Kichu Nahi Mora Guna. I have no good qualities. Now, is this actually applying to Bhaktivinoda Thakur? But when we sing the song, we realize, yeah. Actually, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is singing like that. Actually, this is true for me. It's easier, no? Rather than telling somebody, your mind is always absorbed in sinful desires. You lusty fellow, you useless fellow, take shelter of Krishna. That is too difficult. Not everybody can take that kind of a direct instruction. So please understand, I just wanted you all to get that perspective that this entire story, and we'll be doing this for the next 4-5 chapters, which means 4-5 weeks, which is the story is going to go on of Puranjana, which Narad Muni is narrating to King Parshina Barhi. And across this story is an allegory where even though he's telling the story in one way, each of the characters' personalities map to a hidden meaning. Now, this particular allegory is actually very, very intricate. As we progress through it, you will see it is very, very elaborate, very fine. No, I was thinking it is going to be too analytical if I go through all the finer aspects of this allegory. Again, I fear that Narad Muni managed to capture Prachinabhari's attention, but I will definitely fail to capture your attention because I am neither Narad Muni and perhaps you are not yet in the mood of Prachinabhari. So of course, those who are, this doesn't apply to you, but I'm talking only to those who are not. So because you're going to do an overview, what I thought was I will keep the discussion at a slightly higher level, and I'll request all of you, of course, to study the chapter in detail to get into all the finer aspects. But I'll try to explain the broader plot of the Puranjan story and the main items or characters in the story. What do they map to, and how do they relate to the life of Puranjan? So at least you will be able to get the allegory and get the meaning and get the message that is being conveyed. So that I will ensure. But I'm not going to go through all the finer points. I hope that is okay. So Narad Muni begins. He says, I'm going to tell you the story of Puranjan. Now, by the way, the word Puranjan, even though it's a name, the word Puranjan means one who enjoys the body. This is the hidden meaning. One who enjoys. The Pura is referring to the body, the city. Puranjana, he is who is trying to enjoy the Pura. So the body, enjoyer. So the Puranjana is actually the soul, the living entity, who's actually referring to Prachinabhari. This Puranjan, his activities were so wonderful. He was celebrated everywhere. And he had one friend whose name was Avigyata. Avigyat is the super soul, whose activities nobody knew about. So what he's saying, that there is a soul and there is a super soul. Nobody knows about the super soul, but he's there, who is accompanying him. Now this Puranjan king, Narad Muni says, he was wandering around all over the place, looking for a suitable place to stay. Going here, going there, going here. So the living entity, the conditioned soul, is looking for a suitable body to stay. For what? So that he can enjoy materially. After traveling all over the world, he was trying to get a suitable place, but he couldn't find. He was gradually becoming more and more disappointed. Finally, at one day when he was traveling and he came south of the Himalayas to Bharatvarsha, at that time he came across a very beautiful city. And that city was a city of 9 gates. And it had all wonderful facilities. Now, anybody can tell me what is the allegorical meaning of a city of 9 gates?
Body.
The
body.
The body. Why is the body the city of 9 gates?
Eyes, nose, mouth, genitals, rectum, all the ears, all the different gates of the body.
Thank you, Amit. Yes. So the body is often referred to as having 9 gates or 9 openings. So 2, 2, 2, 6, 7, and 2 at the bottom, the genitals and the anus. So total of 9 gates. Navadwarapure. Now this comparison of a city of 9 gates is not just in this example, but across the Vedas. The body is referred to as a city because the soul is residing in this city. And then the beautiful description of this particular city is given, where various aspects of the city, the walls, the parks, the towers, windows, gates, all of this is given. And then each of these beautiful aspects of the city is compared to one of the aspects of the gross body. Not just the gross as well as the subtle body. So I'm not going to go into each of those descriptions. Almost 5-6 shlokas are dedicated to that. That there are beautiful walls and parks and towers and beautiful canals. There were beautiful gates decorated with a lot of decorations and houses made of gold and silver and beautiful assembly houses, street crossings and flags waving all over, markets, places to rest, beautiful trees and pathways with nice, beautiful lakes with beautiful flowers and birds and cooing cuckoos and all kinds of beautiful description. Where the Bhagavatam compares all this various description to different aspects of the body and the material condition. Now, as King Puranjan, Narad Muni is narrating, enters this city and he sees all these beautiful conditions, he says, wow, finally, I found a wonderful place to reside. So he found a good body. But then when he enters this particular palace, the particular city, he also comes across a very, very beautiful young lady. What is her name? Puranjani. Puranjan meets Puranjani. In the city of 9 gates. So the Bhagavatam explains this Puranjani represents the lusty material intelligence. The material intelligence in its pure form is dedicated to serving the Supreme Lord. But when the material intelligence is covered, over by the modes of nature, bewildered by ahankar, the intelligence becomes materialistic. And rather than taking the soul towards Krishna, actually takes this living entity away from him. So Puranjani represents the intelligence functioning with avidya, ignorance. Okay, so please remember this. Puranjan is the soul, Puranjani is the materialistic intelligence. So when the conditioned soul wants to enjoy, it needs the material intelligence to function in this world so that it can enjoy the Navadwara Pura, the city of 9 gates. So as soon as he saw Puranjani, he saw, wow, this girl is so beautiful. And she seems to have come on her own. Which means the way the intelligence of the conditioned soul has become conditioned is timeless, since time immemorial. And this Puranjani, this beautiful girl, of course he doesn't know her name at that time, that this beautiful girl is served by 10 servants. And each of these servants have hundreds of wives. She's protected by a 5-hooded snake. So the 10 servants are the 10 senses. And there are many hundreds of wives of many desires, because each of the senses has so many desires. So the intelligence is served by the senses, and all the senses have so many desires. And the 5-hooded snake represents the prana, the life airs. And then, of course, her description continues, her beauty. And each of these beauty is compared to various aspects. I will not go into detail, but it said she had very beautiful face, beautiful nose, beautiful teeth, a beautiful forehead, ears with beautiful dazzling earrings. She had a dark complexion. The dark complexion refers that it was the intelligence which was covered over. That is why she had a dark complexion. So Puranjan, when he saw this beautiful lady, he got very attracted to her. Because not only was she there, but she was, her eyebrows were so beautiful. She was smiling. And as she was looking at him, his heart was getting pierced by the arrows of material lust. And he was so attracted that he could not resist talking to her. So this is how the conditioned soul gets bewildered. Actually, the conditioned soul, the Lord doesn't entrap him. But the living entity itself becomes so desirous of trying to enjoy matter because of being vimukha from the Lord, because of having turned away from the Lord, that the living entity himself causes his own fall down. So Puranjan inquired from Puranjani, "Oh, my dear lotus-eyed one, who are you? What is your name? Where are you? Where have you come from? Whose daughter are you?" Now, this "whose daughter are you" is a subtle way of asking, "Are you married?" Because that was a very important question for him. What is the purpose of your coming here? Who are all these bodyguards who are with you? Who are the women behind them? What is the snake doing here? So he asked a barrage of questions. I don't know how come he asked so many questions in one go, but anyway, like interview questions, one after another, so many. Are you Bhavani, that is Durga, the wife of Lord Shiva, or are you Lakshmi, or are you Saraswati? Because you seem to be so extraordinarily beautiful. And then Puranjan says, no, you cannot be Lakshmi. Because Lakshmi normally carries a lotus in her hand. But you don't seem to have any lotus in your hand. So definitely you're not Lakshmi. And then he looks at her and realizes, oh, actually, you cannot be even Durga, Lakshmi, or Saraswati because your feet are touching the floor. The demigoddesses, their feet never touch the floor. So tell me, who are you? Actually, you are so beautiful and you are so attractive. And I think it will be a good idea if both of us together decorate this city. Because I am a great hero and you are so beautiful. It will be so nice. Both of us go together here and there and enjoy in this city, just like Lord Narayan and Lakshmi Devi. Won't it be so nice? So this is how the conditioned soul becomes bewildered by the material intelligence, that it starts making plans in cohorts with the material intelligence. That's why in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna repeatedly says one must spiritualize one's intelligence. That's why in the second chapter itself, Krishna uses the word Buddhi Yoga. Buddhi Yogam Tumam Shrunu. Now here Buddhi Yoga. I explained Sankhya Yoga this far now because you can overcome illusion through Buddhi Yoga. So Buddhi must be connected in yoga, which means it must be connected to the Lord. When Buddhi becomes connected, like Puranjani, to ignorance in the three modes, then it actually bewilders the living entity. So please join me. Your glances and your shy smiles are agitating my mind so much. So I really want your company. Please be merciful to me. So this is what happens to the conditioned soul when he becomes overwhelmed with material desire. He becomes subservient. You are speaking such beautiful words. Your eyebrows are so beautiful and your eyes are so beautiful. And especially around your eyes, your bluish hair, which is scattered all around. And you are speaking such beautiful, sweet words. Hmm? So, this is all describing the bewilderment. So, Puranjan was pleading to Puranjani to accept his proposal. What was the proposal? Marry me and let us have a good time together in this city of 9 gates. Okay, that was the bottom line. So Puranjani starts responding to Puranjan's proposal. The first thing she says is, I do not know my name. I don't know whose daughter I am, from which family I am. I don't know any of this. I just know that I happen to be here and I'm here now. Besides this, I don't know anything. I don't even know who has created this place. So what does this mean? That the materialistic intelligence has no idea where it has come from, how it got entangled, how it has reached in the mess that it has reached currently. So living entity is very bewildered. And then these associates, they are my friends. These men, their wives, they are my friends. The senses and the mind, yeah, as well as the desires. And the snake, who represents the pranas, is the one who's protecting me always. Because the pranas which keep the body alive, even as I'm sleeping. Oh, by great fortune, I'm meeting you. So her name becomes Puranjani because she says, I have no name. So because he's Puranjan, he calls her Puranjani. Okay, easy, no? So her reference is Puranjani. By great fortune, you have come to this particular place, which means with great fortune, you have attained a human form of life, Navadvara Pure. And we are here to serve you. We are so happy to get the opportunity to serve you. Please stay here in this city of 9 gates for 100 years. 100 years is the typical lifetime of a human being. And we will arrange everything for your enjoyment. Other men I have seen, they are not so competent as you in giving pleasure and enjoying this world. I think you are a good match for me. We can enjoy together life. And then she starts glorifying actually a materialistic life. She says it will be so wonderful. We will do dharma, artha, and kama together. She doesn't mention moksha. She talks about dharma, artha, kama, which means let us. We can be religious, but we want to enjoy materialistic activities only. And this kind of a mentality of a living entity itself shows that they are in ignorance. So she actually proposes pravritti mark rather than nivritti mark. Nivritti mark means the path of detachment. But the materialistic intelligence always promotes pravritti mark. Even the use of religion is for pravritti rather than nivritti. And the Bhagavatam makes this point very strongly in the very early chapters itself. It says this is what is Kaitava Dharma, this is what is cheating religion, that religion which is actually meant to develop detachment, people use it for increasing their attachment. And that's exactly what Narad Muni is trying to tell Prachina Parishad. You are actually creating a bigger mess for yourself by trying to enjoy this material world. So she says, okay, yes, let us do Dharma, Artha, Kama together. It'll be great fun. It's wonderful. After all, what is better than a wonderful, happy married life? This is the real glory of life. Correct? This is how the materialistic intelligence tells, no? What is the materialistic intelligence promise to all of us? Have a good job, make a lot of money, have a lot of apartments, have a lot of bank balance, have nice children, educate them abroad, be famous in society, be glorified, acquire a lot of name, fame, do some religious rituals so that after this death you'll go and enjoy in heaven. This is the summum bonum of a materialistic mentality. And that is exactly what the Puranjani is proposing to Puranjan. Yes, we together will do this because this is what is really supposed to be done. And you are the right person to give me company to do this. Which foolish lady will not accept a husband like you? You are famous, you are generous, you are handsome, and you are so affectionate with snake-like arms. You relieve the distress of unsheltered women like me by your smiling glances. So she accepted the proposal, both of them got together, and both of them then entered that city and continued to enjoy their life for 100 years. All kinds of enjoyment. They were accompanied by singers. In summer, Puranjan would enjoy in the river. And in this way, I'm skipping quite a few things with a lot of allegory of the 9 gates of the city is given. But essentially, Puranjan and Puranjani continued to enjoy in the Navadwarapura for a long, long time. It is said he fulfilled all her desires. Which means whatever the materialistic intelligence was saying, this is good, let's enjoy this. This is good, let's enjoy this. This is what the material intelligence does, right? Material intelligence, if I achieve this, I'll be happy. When we go there and find, oh, actually, there's not a no, actually, actually, it was there, but we didn't do it right. Now let us try this. If we get this, we'll be happy. So the material intelligence is always doing like this. So in this way, Puranjan was lusty, kamatma, cheated, vanchita, and foolish, abudha. He was blindly following this Puranjani. It is said he drank, dined, chewed, sang, cried, laughed, talked loosely, walked, stood still, lied down, sat, heard, saw, smelled, touched, lamented, enjoyed, and was satisfied all the time, exactly following her. See, this is how the conditioned soul, Puranjan, when it identifies itself so strongly because of its desire for enjoyment with the material body, the material mind, and material intelligence, just following them, totally losing track of who it is, just like a pet animal who follows his master. This foolish Puranjan was cheated of his own real nature. Even against his desire, the Bhagavatam says, he remained under the control of Puranjani, just like a pet animal, Krida Mriga. So that brings us to the end of this chapter, which means essentially the story has not ended, the story has just begun. When Narad Muni has started telling the story of this Puranjan, who's looking for a nice town to stay. He comes to this Navadwarapura. He comes inside, he sees there's a wonderful place. Then he meets Puranjani, who is extraordinarily beautiful. He proposes to her, she accepts the proposal, and both of them decide, let us enjoy materialistically very nicely in this city of 9 gates. And he becomes totally absorbed in the enjoyment behind her, that he becomes totally oblivious of the reality. So this is what Narad Muni is explaining. Of course, Narad Muni is only telling him the story. He's not explaining the allegory. I am explaining the allegory based on what the Acharyas have explained. So when Narad Muni is speaking to King Prachina Bharishat, he's only telling the external story without giving the meaning. So only eventually Prachina Bharishat, finally it dawns on him, oh, this is my story. This is me. I am the one who has become attracted by my materialistic intelligence and have become bound by my fruitive desires. Okay, Narad Muni ki jai. Thank you very much. We come to the end of the 25th chapter, and the story will continue onwards. Any questions, any comments?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhu.
I have a general doubt. When we are enjoying in whatever we are enjoying in the material world, it is referred. It is referred as like we are. A tiger is chasing and we are running and we have fallen inside a deep well. Inside the well there were a lot of snakes and we were just holding the plant root, and the root was by the time the root was cut by a squirrel, and by the time a drop of honey is dropping from a honeycomb, and we are enjoying the sweetness of the honey, which is equivalent to the temporary happiness what we are achieving in this material world. Like, is the description what I'm saying correct, Prabhuji?
Yeah. I don't remember all the dimensions of that particular example, but yes, that is also another example which is given in the Bhagavatam only, where the precarious condition. So that example is talking about the very dangerous, precarious condition of the living entity, where the living entity is actually in such a dangerous situation that he can die anytime, because all these things, he's being chased by a tiger, he's on a tree of the branch where the branch is being eaten by a mouse, something like that, right? And
Yes.
a few other things. So there are many dangerous situations which are described, which all hint that any moment he will fall and die. But even in this difficulty, he is looking at one drop of honey which is falling from the top, and he's extending the tongue out and extending himself, just hoping that one drop he will take on his tongue. So what this means is again a similar situation where the foolish living entity, the bewildered living entity in the material world is actually continuously harassed. Like they said, right? He was being bitten by wasps, right? The snake was waiting for him in the form of time at the bottom of the well, right? In that particular example. So even though he's so harassed, still he is not giving up the hope for material enjoyment. That is the foolish condition, right? See, this is what the great souls say, right? That the living entity, even though he's suffering so much, even little enjoyment he is getting, he's still attached to that little enjoyment. He's not thinking, how can I get myself into a situation that I can be free from suffering? So yes, that is also a wonderful example. The scriptures give many beautiful examples to help us become aware of the precarious condition. And that is why we are saying that unless we actually through purification become aware of the dangerous situation that we are in, that actually we are trying to enjoy, but actually it's a hopeless situation. Even if we do the best in the material world, we will get 1 out of 100 marks. Means 99 miseries and 1 enjoyment. Most people don't even get 0.01% marks, which means they're suffering most of the time. But that is the nature of the illusion. That is why it is called Maya. Because of the false identification that the living entity is unable to see. Correct, Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhuji. In this situation, how the Guru's words will help the person to get out of the well or get out of the situation, Prabhuji?
Yeah, so of course the Guru's words are powerful in the sense that they can be impactful. But again, it is also important that the disciple also has to come to a particular level of maturity to be receptive to the Guru's words. Because so many Gurus are also speaking. But not everybody gets awakened. Some get awakened, isn't it? So many gurus have been speaking through so many centuries. So there's a particular level of elevation necessary. And that is why it is said that such a living entity is considered to be very fortunate, who after many, many lifetimes comes to the awareness that actually I'm trying for happiness all this while, but I'm not getting it. Somehow this consciousness arises that they start becoming disillusioned. And one of the main contributing factors for this disillusionment is usually some association with saintly people. Of course, suffering in the material world is contributing, but suffering by itself is not adequate, because Maya is so strong that that realization doesn't come unless there is some kind of spiritual sukruti. Either ideally bhakti unmukh sukruti, or at least jnanonmukhi sukruti. Something is necessary, some kind of sukruti is necessary to at least ask this question: why am I suffering? What is the goal of life? And that is why it is said that is the beginning of human life. Athato Brahma Jigyasa. Who am I? Why am I suffering? Correct? That is how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu began the instructions, right? Wasn't it with Sanatana Goswami in that conversation? Who am I? Why am I suffering? What is the goal of life? So this doesn't come to everybody. Correct? In this world, so many people suffer. Do all people who suffer miserably, do they actually ask this question? Most people feel that, oh, right now I'm suffering, but now one day I will get into a situation where I will enjoy. That is the illusion. So that is why it is very important to remain in the association of devotees, so that we do not become forgetful of the precarious situation we are in. Because if we don't realize our precarious situation, then we lose focus, we lose the seriousness and the intensity to surrender to Krishna, and the intensity to do our sadhana with a sense of urgency. And when that happens, we are not able to make proper spiritual advancement. Correct? I mean, if you look at our own lives, we have been suffering so long. Did we ask the questions? Most of the times, no, right? Or even if we ask it in a very shallow way. Shallow way means it is like Smashan Vairagya. When we see somebody dying, when we go to the funeral, we say, oh yeah, I'm also going to die. And as soon as we come back home, we ask what is for dinner, what is on TV, correct? That is known as Smashan Vairagya. That Vairagya is not the Vairagya we're talking about. That temporary, circumstantial, that insight cannot be maintained, because there is no deeper realization there, supported by Sukrutis. Okay, does it answer?
Yes, Prabhuji. Yes, correct.
Okay, anything else? Okay, thank you everyone. Okay, so I will see you on Wednesday. We will continue with Chaitanya Charitamrita. Please read these chapters. This is 25th, so 26, 27, 28, 29. Another 4 more chapters of Puranjana. So it's going to be a bit philosophical, but I hope you're okay if I tell the story a bit more simple rather than making it too technical. And we'll keep it like that. Okay, thank you. Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Samaveta Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Hari Bo. Hare Krishna. Thank you. Hari Bol, Suraj, Shalini ji, Archana ji, Swati ji, Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you, Indulekha Mataji, Sachi Prema Mataji. Thank you, Sneha ji. Thank you. Nice to see. Yeah. Rajina ji. Thank you. Anand Sundari Mataji. See Praveen. Nice to see you again. Amit, as always, happy that you are here.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes, Rishikesh, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hari Bo. Thank you.
Hare
I'll
Krishna,
see you all
Prabhuji.
on Wednesday. Yes, Sriniji. Hare Krishna.